Looking out at the world, have you ever noticed how quickly we assign labels? Hero, villain, good, evil, black, white. Life isn't that simple, is it? No, life is far messier, far more interesting. And that's what we're exploring today. In this world, you are either the villain who survived or the hero who buried someone else's story. Let's be brutally honest here. Most of you watching right now are living in a comfortable delusion. You think you're the hero of your own story, don't you? How adorable. The truth? You're probably the villain in someone else's narrative. Shocking, isn't it? That's what happens when everyone thinks they're the main character. What if I told you that every success story you've ever admired is built on the rubble of someone else's dreams? That every triumph necessitates another's defeat? Would that make you uncomfortable? Good. Discomfort breeds growth. The narrative battlefield, history as they say, is written by the victors. But let's strip away the fancy language and call it what it is. The survivors get to control the narrative. The dead don't write memoirs. Think about it. Every promotion you've ever received, someone else didn't get it. That business you successfully launched, you probably stomped on several competitors along the way. That romantic partner you're so proud to be with, how many hearts were broken in that pursuit? Are you the villain yet? Or still clinging to your hero status? The world doesn't reward moral purity. It rewards results, and results often require getting your hands dirty. The most successful people aren't necessarily the most ethical. They're the ones who understood the game being played and played it better than anyone else. The hero's delusion. Let me ask you something deeply uncomfortable. How many dreams have you stepped on to get where you are today? Don't rush to defend yourself. Sit with that question. Really sit with it. The problem with playing the hero is that heroes need villains, and in your quest to be heroic, how many people have you cast as antagonists in your personal narrative? The boss who didn't recognize your brilliance, the friend who didn't support your vision, the partner who questioned your choices? See, that's the trick of it all. Everyone thinks they're the protagonist, fighting against forces trying to hold them back. But in reality, we're all just characters in a complex web of intersecting stories, sometimes playing the hero, sometimes playing the villain. And the most dangerous people? Those who never question which role they're playing. Survival versus morality. In this world, you are either the villain who survived or the hero who buried someone else's story. Let's dissect this further. Survival often requires ruthlessness. It demands prioritizing yourself over others. In nature, we accept this as normal. The lion isn't evil for killing the gazelle. It's just survival. But in human society, we've created this elaborate moral framework that often conflicts with what it takes to truly thrive. So what happens? The most successful among us learn to navigate both worlds. They make the brutal choices required for survival and advancement, while maintaining a narrative that preserves their hero status. Think about the tech billionaires who crushed countless smaller companies on their way to dominance, but now position themselves as philanthropic saviors. Are they heroes or villains, or are they simply survivors who learn to control the narrative? The uncomfortable truth is that success and morality often exist in tension with each other, and those who refuse to acknowledge this tension are either failing to reach their potential or lying to themselves about the nature of their achievements. The buried stories. For every success story that makes headlines, there are 1,000 failures that no one remembers. For every celebrated entrepreneur, there are countless others who had similar ideas but lacked the resources, connections, or ruthlessness to bring them to fruition. Their stories get buried, not because they weren't worthy, but because that's how narrative works. We celebrate the survivors, not the casualties. And here's where it gets really interesting. Sometimes burying other stories isn't an act of malice, but a necessity for progress. Innovation disrupts. Creation often requires destruction. The new replaces the old, and there's no way around that fundamental truth. So are you comfortable yet with the possibility that your success might come at someone else's expense, that your rise might require another's fall? If not, you're probably not ready for real success. Playing both roles. The most fascinating people understand that they'll play both hero and villain throughout their lives. They accept this duality rather than fighting it. They know when to be ruthless and when to be compassionate, when to compete and when to collaborate, when to bury someone else's story and when to elevate it alongside their own. This isn't moral relativism, it's moral complexity. It's acknowledging that life isn't a simple hero's journey, but a complex dance of competing interests, shifting alliances, and difficult choices. The most successful people I've encountered don't waste energy pretending to be perfect. They accept their capacity for both creation and destruction. They own their ambition without apology. They understand that sometimes they'll be cast as the villain in someone else's story, and they make peace with that reality. Because ultimately, survival in this competitive world sometimes requires choices that won't make everyone happy. And that's a brutal truth many aren't willing to face. The power of narrative control. Here's where you can shift from passive participant to active player. Control your narrative. The difference between being seen as a villain or a hero often comes down to who's telling the story. And in today's world, you have unprecedented ability to tell your own. Those who understand this wield immense power. They know that perception often matters more than reality. They recognize that human beings are storytelling creatures, constantly creating narratives to make sense of the world. So they craft compelling stories about themselves and their actions. They reframe their ruthless business decision as visionary disruption. They position their self-interest as creating value for others. They transform their ambition into passion. Is this manipulation? Perhaps, but it's also understanding human psychology. People don't respond to raw facts. They respond to narrative. And those who master narrative control rarely end up as villains, no matter how many stories they've buried along the way. The question of legacy. Let me confront you with another uncomfortable question. What stories will be buried when your story is told? Because make no mistake, your success will come at a cost. Your advancement will create winners and losers. Your choices will elevate some and diminish others. The question isn't whether this will happen, but whether you'll acknowledge it. Whether you'll take responsibility for the full impact of your existence, not just the parts that make you feel good about yourself. Legacy isn't just about what you build. It's also about what you destroy in the process. The truly great understand this duality and embrace it fully. So where does this leave you? Stuck in some moral quagmire, paralyzed by the potential harm your ambitions might cause? No, that's not the point of this exploration. The point is to strip away the comfortable delusions that keep you small, to help you understand that impact requires trade-offs, that significance often comes at a price. Once you accept these truths, you can make conscious choices rather than hiding behind naive idealism. You can pursue your goals with clear eyes about what they require. You can stop wasting energy on moral performances and instead focus on actual results. Because here's the final, brutal truth. The world doesn't reward those who play small to avoid being villains. It rewards those who make an impact, who create change, who leave a mark, even if that sometimes means stepping on toes or burying competing narratives. The question isn't whether you'll be a hero or villain, it's whether you'll have the courage to be significant enough to be either. The choice is yours. So which will you be? The villain who survived, or the hero who buried someone else's story? Perhaps the wisest answer is both. At different times, in different contexts, with different people. The strongest among us don't cling to fixed identities or moral absolutes. They adapt. They recognize the complexity of human existence and embrace their capacity to be both creator and destroyer, both nurturer and competitor. They understand that significance requires sacrifice, sometimes their own, sometimes others, and they make peace with that reality rather than denying it. So I'll leave you with this thought. Stop trying so hard to be the hero. Stop fearing being cast as the villain. Instead, focus on being authentic, impactful, and conscious of the stories you're creating and the ones you're burying. Because in the end, the most fascinating characters are never purely heroes or villains. They're complex individuals making difficult choices in an unpredictable world. Are you ready to embrace that complexity? Or will you keep hiding behind comfortable moral absolutes that keep you small? The choice, as always, is yours. If this perspective challenged you, if it made you uncomfortable, if it forced you to confront aspects of success and ambition you'd rather ignore, good. That discomfort is the beginning of growth. Hit like if this made you think. Subscribe if you're ready for more unvarnished truths about success, power, and human nature. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because in a world of comfortable delusions, sometimes the most valuable thing is a brutal reality check. Until next time, remember, in every story someone survives and someone gets buried. Make sure you know which role you're playing.